Hello and welcome to my wildlife year, week 34. Just going to start off with a quick book recommendation. A couple of weeks ago I showed some galls and oaks, and I think there's about 4 species if I remember right. The book that I use is a Wild Guides Britain's Plant Galls. It's a really good book. It's not very thick. Because there's not a huge number of galls around, but there's enough to warrant a book. Basically they're split into 3 parts. There's the oak galls, because the oak tree has a lot of galls grow on it. Then galls on other trees and shrubs, and then galls on herbaceous plants. There's a bit in there about further reading as well. There is actually another gall book that I want to get, and that's one of the aid gap guides in plant galls from the Field Studies Council. It's on my wish list at the minute of sort of like books that I want to get. I've got most of the aid gap guides that I want, but that's the one that I'm really sort of like, desperate to get hold of. But it's £30. It's a bit on the expensive side at the moment, like when cash is a bit tight. So this one here, I can't remember, £12ish, I think, maybe. It's between 12, certainly no more than 15, but I think about £12 for this book if you shop around. Really good. So just thought I'd, because I covered plant galls a couple of weeks ago, I thought I'd just mention that book. And the rest of the wild guides are absolutely brilliant. I mean, I can just see up there, I've got the habitat, Britain's habitats, Britain's birds, Britain's mammals, Britain's sea mammals, Britain's reptiles and amphibians, Britain's freshwater fish, Britain's dragonflies, Britain's spiders, Britain's day-flying moths, Britain's butterflies, Britain's hoverflies, Britain's orchids, and also the flight identification of European passerines and selected land birds. I'm having to go like that because there's a tripod in the way to read the books. So wild guides are absolutely excellent, and I'd recommend them to anyone, not just because they're actually really good ID guides, they're also really well written, and they're actually the type of book that you could sit down and, although they're an ID guide, read it cover to cover, because there's a lot of really good information in there. So anyway, before we sort of like wax lyrical about wild guides anymore, let's get on with my wildlife year, week 34. I've just seen, look, I don't know whether you can see that. Can you see that diving beetle? Just right there, yeah. I've got my first diving beetle in my pond. Yeah! And there's some of the snails that I put in. Now, they were not that size when I put them in. I cannot believe how fast they've grown. There's some there. Yeah, they're in fact, I really didn't remember putting in quite as many. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, at least 9 quite sizable ones. I never put in anywhere near that many sort of like that were a decent size, anywhere close to that size. So I don't know where, I don't know where they've come from. I've put them in, but I can't believe how fast they've grown. But that explains why the pond's really cleaned up with all the algae, because the snails have been doing what they do. This is absolutely brilliant. So yes, so it just goes to show, build a pond and the wildlife will come, although you've got to give it a bit of a helping hand like I did with the snails. So yes, really pleased with how the pond's turned out. I had the moth trap out last night, so I'm going to see what we've got in it today. Oh, there's something, I don't know whether you can see it just in that funnel there. So I'll switch off the camera and get out and see what we've got. I've already got 3 from outside the trap, so see what's in the trap now. We've got a large yellow underwing on this side there, but turn it over and we've got quite a few in there too.
Very common moth at this time of year.
So, got 35 moths here to check. Well, there's a couple of caddisflies in here as well. But I'm going to try using something a bit different rather than just my book, which is up there. I'm going to use an app that my friend David, when we did the bat event at Quercus Plants Nursery, he pointed me in the direction of an app that's on the web called What's Flying Tonight. I was vaguely aware of it, but it's Butterfly Conservation have done it, and it shows you basically the most common moths that have been flying in your area on that date in previous years, so it's a good chance that you're going to do it. So let's have a look and see what there is.
So I've got the app saved to my phone, and I just open it up and agree for it to use my location and stuff like that, and it tells me exactly what has been seen in my area on this night in previous years. So there's, it starts off with quite a number of records and just keeps scrolling down and down and down, and the numbers of records obviously get less the more you go. You can go check out the sort of top 10, top 50, top 100. The default is checking out the top 150 records, so it gives you a good idea of exactly what is around and what you might see in your trap. Obviously, if it's a rarity, it won't be there, but that adds a bit of fun to it if you then have to look up the books. But it's a good little app.
Right, well, I had 35 to identify. Showed you that list on the What's Flying Tonight, and top of it was, not surprisingly, large yellow underwing, and guess what? 22 out of the 35 tubs have large yellow underwings in them, so that's not surprising really, but it does go to show it's right. So I'll just go and identify the others and see where they come in the list. You can see 22 large yellow underwing, 5 lesser yellow underwing, which was the second one on What's Flying Tonight, and I've got 2, 4, 6, 7 left here, although 2 of them, that one there, 8 left, that one there and that one there are both caddisfly, but there's 8 single moths I've got to identify as well. Not far down that list was the flame carpet, and here is one. Right, so they're all been ID'd, and here we go, and we've got, what was it, 2, 4, 6, 8 species, 7 species, these are all macros, 26 is the most, this was the 26th down the list, all the rest were actually higher on What's Flying Tonight, so it actually worked out quite well. This micro, I had to actually check the book, which was quite nice, because to tell you the truth, using this app was probably quicker, but actually I missed flicking through the book, if that makes sense. So I don't think I'll be making use of the app online all the time, but if I'm short of time, I think I'll probably use it. But if I've got plenty of time, I think I'll still stick to the book, basically because it's all part of the experience. So let's see. I'm not going to say goodbye to certainly not my micro moth book, because the micro moths aren't on it, but my moth book up there will certainly be coming down off the bookshelf more. I don't know how clearly you can see all the insects flying about in front of me. Well, not very clearly at all, but they're there, trust me, lots of them. And the little mayflies, although we're actually in August now, mayflies fly at lots of different times of the year, it just depends on the species. So I've had quite a few mayflies turning up in moth trap in the evening. I can see there's a few shown on this video, but trust me, there's a heck of a lot more
thought I might start a new wee segment. Don't know whether I'll do it every week, but basically it's dispelling some wildlife myths. And I thought I'd start off this week with bats. Obviously a bit of a passion for mine if you've been watching my wildlife year. But the two myths around bats are, one is they get tangled in your hair, which they don't really. I mean, there will be some stories of where it's happened and some will say, oh yeah, it happened to me. But bats, if you actually stand still and there's bats flying close to you, they're after the midges. But if you start flapping about, the bat might try and dodge your arms and end up tangled in your hair or something like that. It doesn't really happen. They don't fly into your hair. If it happens, it's an accident. And really, if you just actually stood still, as you know, some people would find that difficult because they're a bit frightened of bats. Although there's no need. But the bats wouldn't end up near you at all. It's only if you start waving about and sort of try to start dodging them that they might actually end up flying into you. Of course, some of us don't need to worry about bats flying into their hair. And the other one is that bats are blind. You'll have heard the phrase blind's the bat, probably. Well, they're not. They can see, not brilliantly, they've got very small eyes, but they can see reasonably well. For instance, Chonky, I swear, as soon as she sees me now, sort of come in, she just comes to the front of that little container she's in and waits to be fed. She can see me and knows what's coming. And if I put in mealworms at one end of that container and sort of on the ground, she'll crawl up there and eat them. From the other end, she can see. But the reason is that they use echolocation rather than their eyesight is they hunt in the middle of the night. So even if they had really good eyesight, for their size, the eyes would have to be absolutely huge to be able to see tiny little insects. I mean, look at owls. Owls have huge eyes, and they're after small mammals. So bats would have to have, so they'd look like big cartoon bats with huge eyes. Sorry, I'm chuckling because I've just got this picture of this bat in my head. So they've got small eyes, but they can see reasonably well during the if there's enough light and all that. Some species see better than others, but when they're actually flying and moving about, it's actually the echolocation they use. And of course, they need to be able to see a bit, because they need to be able to tell when the light level's low enough for them to leave their roost. If they were blind, how would they know what the light level was like? See, so I bet you hadn't thought of that one, had you? So they're not blind at all. So blind's a bat is not true, and they won't get stuck in your hair as long as you don't sort of start flapping about and all that. But most bats, if they come near you, they're just after the midges. So leave them to it. Let them eat those midges so that you're not getting bitten. Anyway, don't know whether I'll make this a weekly occurrence or not. I haven't even thought about what other wildlife myths I might try and bust. But I'll see whether I do it every week or if it's just an occasional segment. So that's it over this week. Right, now here's Chonky, and that there is it's for mainly measuring humidity, but it also measures temperature, and I've got it in there. There's a wee heat pad here that's set to minimum just to keep her warm, and that there was actually over here. She's moved it and she's now sitting on top of it, I think to get my attention so that I feed her. I'm sure it is. So I'll just drop in a few mealworms for her. Well, it's a lovely sunny afternoon and I've got my net here. I'm having a seat in the garden and I'm keeping an eye out for butterflies. And the reason for that is, I mentioned before on my wildlife year that my wife's a minister. Tomorrow she's doing a all-age service and it's called If I Were a Butterfly. So I'm hoping to catch some butterflies this afternoon. Put them in a flight cage with something to eat, and then release them after the service tomorrow morning. So I'm just keeping an eye out. There was one flitting about over there, but it was far too high. I don't know whether I need to go and get my longer handled net. I'll see how it goes. So I'll see if I can catch anything. Caught my first one, so I'll just go and put it in the flight cage that I've got. Number 2 caught. Well, I've managed to catch, I don't know whether you can see with the light, there's one white up there, and there's one down there. And over there, you can see those 2 dark ones, those are both peacocks, and I've got some fruit down there for them to drink. So, tomorrow, for Rachel's service, there'll be at least 4 butterflies for her if I wear a butterfly service. You can see the pondweed here is already starting to get quite a lot. In this area here was full of it, so I've actually just pulled it all out and dumped it there. Don't want too much pondweed getting in, because then it doesn't let any light into the pond, which isn't good. So I've taken it all out, but I've left it here so that if there's any sort of like invertebrates from the pond in it, they're able to go down and back into the water. So it's always a good idea, if you clean out your pond of any weeds or that, pondweed or that you leave it at the side of the pond to give the invertebrates a chance to get back in there. I said that Chonky is always on the lookout for me. Look, here she is. Look at her. Food. Feed me. Feed me. I want mealworms. Quick, where are you? She's had, I don't know how many today, but she obviously wants some more. Look at her. Yeah, feed me. Feed me. Okay, I'll feed you. There she is, chomping down the mealworm. You can tell how much she's eaten. Look at the amount of poo. That was cleaned out. I'm just about to do it again. But that was cleaned out yesterday evening, and look at the state of it now. It's just as well that I've tried to breed my own mealworms, because I think I'm going to need them. She's certainly eating a lot, and she enjoys her food. My neighbours asked me if I'll take 5 young kids around the green to talk about bats and stuff like that this evening, so just get my stuff ready together to take them round, see what we can see. Right, so I'm off to meet them at the corner of the green, and of course tonight, 28th of August, is International Bat Night, so that just happens to be a nice coincidence. Right. Yeah. So that noise is actually its voice that you can hear. It's shouting out. So it's shouting out really loudly.
I know something about rats.
This is a soprano pipistrelle. Now, do you remember I said there was a common pipistrelle down at 45, and this is at 55? Yeah, there's 3. Yeah. Now those are bats. Now down at 45, the common isn't the most common in Scotland. The most common in Scotland is actually the soprano. Well, it's a good way to spend International Bat Night.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my Wildlife Year, week 34. Next week I've got a couple of things planned. I'm meeting someone on site to discuss some work that I'm involved with, and I'm hoping to visit someone else possibly, and I've asked someone if they'd actually like to have a chat via Zoom and just do a wee thing for my Wildlife Year. Whether that happens next week or not, I don't know yet, but when it happens, I'll certainly be posting on the social media that it's happening. And that's about it, I think. I don't think I've got anything else on in the diary at the moment. So anyway, so I'll see you all next week for My Wildlife Here, week 35. Stay safe and keep enjoying the wildlife. Cheers.